Yes, I'm Jochen Friedrichs. I'm CEO of Ursa since nearly 3 years now. Before that, I was quite a couple of years with Xella and did operational improvement programs in purchasing and also in the digital area. And I like pretty much what I'm doing because Ursa is a very adaptive company, and also in the crisis now we see that is a big advantage of the company, that we can react very fast to things which are happening out there, and that is one of the crucial things which make us successful in this crisis.
That brings us right to the first question. What impacts do you see of the COVID-19 crisis on the industry as a whole and to your company in specific?
There's a today and there's a tomorrow when we think about the impact to our company and also to the industry. When we think about, we see the whole range of situations happening. We have very severe situations. We also have situations in which we have a healthy continuation of business. And we have something in between, the undecided areas. Very heavy impact we see in Italy, in Spain, in France, in Benelux, where we have situations in which there's zero business. At least there are certain days where there's zero business. And the demand dropped now to 50% on a monthly average. This has led to different challenges in these countries, and it has forced us to slow down capacities, and it also has led to situations in which we actually were forced to reduce capacities, although we did not want to. So it's very challenging for us to find the right balance between capacities and demand.
That brings us to the question of what measures have you taken to tackle the crisis. I think you already mentioned that you need to react, and sometimes you cannot dictate what to do. What does that mean on an operational basis for your company?
So first of all, let me say, we are here to stay. So everything which we do is guided by the principle of we want to have a good future after the crisis. And the first thing we have to do, of course, and we started very early with this, is to protect our employees from the infections. And we've been maybe one of the first companies who implemented very strict rules. For Ursa, we managed to send all the European admin, sales and marketing stuff to home office very early, since our digital tools allowed us to do that without any business interruptions. At the same time, we introduced safety measures in all of the plants in order to protect infections in the plant. And status today is that we have very, very few cases of infections, which all happened outside of the company and did not spread in the company. So we have no business impact direct from infections. This is a good development. Talking about the economic measures, we do what is needed in the crisis, but we do not do things which will make it difficult for us to come up again after the crisis. So we take measures which help us today and do not give us obstacles. Let me give you some examples. When we look at the crisis areas, we will find a lot of people being at short-term work agreements, but we will not find many dismissals. We will also see that we have reduced our growth capex for the time being, but we will not see that we will risk maintenance capex. So we will be here in the future, and we have to adapt our cost today, and we have to be sure that we are there when the business restarts again.
That brings us to the next topic. How do you see the evolution of this crisis in the short but also in the long run?
Well, short run depends very much on the political decisions which are taken. The longer the shutdown will take, the more severe the short-term consequences will be, and the more they will have an impact on the long-term scenario also. So I think political leaders should really limit the economic impact of fighting the coronavirus as soon as possible and wherever possible. That's, first of all, a statement. And we already see these short-term effects of the lockdown with these minus 100% of business development. And no industry will be able to fight that for a long time. So long-term, or let's first of all talk about midterm. Midterm, of course, industry, especially the building industry, will complete the pipeline. Everybody has a strong interest on completing the building objects which are out there, which have started, where there's money in, and which need completing. So this will happen. And I expect that this will happen under pressure and fast, because everybody expects the downturn and that it will be more difficult to market these building objects. Now, once this pipeline has been completed, see quite a sharp drop. Why do we see a sharp drop? Owners will think twice to invest because there's high insecurity. At the same time, they will see that the market for real estate will have a correction, a downward correction, but might also not be so attractive to invest in real estate. So we will see reduced new build activity. How deep it will be, again, this depends on how long the crisis is handled as it is handled today.
And to what extent do you think this crisis will transform the industry in the long run?
Building industry is a traditional industry which is changing following megatrends. Now, we will not change that it's a traditional industry, and we will also not change the long-term megatrends. This is why there are megatrends. But of course, the crisis can have an impact on how these megatrends impact the industry on the more midterm thing. So the question is, does the crisis accelerate or slow down the megatrend? And let me look at three megatrends here. One is sustainable building. Second one is affordable building. And we also have digitalization. Affordable building, of course, will be accelerated. When there's less money, when people are looking for cheaper opportunities to invest, this will drive affordable housing. So everybody in the industry who's on that trend will be relatively successful. And fortunately, Ursa, with glass wool, especially as a material, has a product which supports affordable housing very good. And this will also lead, to a certain extent, to more popular digitalization. We will not see so many new processes being implemented or solutions because this requires time and money. At the same time, those solutions which are available, they will spread and they will become more popular. So we will see more of the things which already work today being applied all over the industry in order to reduce process costs and in order to support the need of housing. Now, these were the good news. Now, how about sustainable building? And here we have a challenge. It is the bigger problem out there. We have to reduce CO2 emissions because the climate change is a bigger threat on the long run than the COVID-19. The danger we have today is that due to the financial challenges which are there for economies and also for entrepreneurs, that investments in sustainability will be reduced. And this should not happen, must not happen. I would like to state here is that it's a great opportunity after the crisis to invest in sustainability, to give money to this sector and to follow our roadmap of fighting the climate change. And it's also a question for political leaders, where do they inject money and where do they create demand and where do they create supply? And I strongly recommend that they do this where it makes sense on the long run. And one of the things which is very important is sustainability and the reduction of emissions buildings. And that is possible in the renovation sector. And the renovation sector is a sector which we know we can work on, where we have programs that work to create supply and demand, and where we know that we can have a fast restart of the economy. So to summarize, affordable housing and digitalization will be positively influenced. Sustainable building can be positively influenced if politicians take the right decisions.
Perfect. We couldn't end on a better note. Thanks a lot, Jochen Friedrichs, for the interview.
I would like to add something.
Sure.
I would like to add something. And I think this is also important. And that is a question I would ask myself. What's the responsibility of economic leaders of companies in this situation? And I've talked a lot about what's the political responsibility, but also business leaders have responsibility. And the way that I look at it is, we will have a situation of high insecurity. A lot of things will change. So what do leaders have to do? In my eyes, they have to concentrate on being a reliable partner for the other businesses around each other. So we have certain stability within our industries, and we should continue these stable practices of industries. And we should avoid opportunistic behavior, because opportunistic behavior will always lead to more destabilization and to higher insecurity. And this will slow down the restart of the economy, because in this situation, we would first of all have to rebuild what we have built up the last 15, 20 years. So business leaders need to stabilize